Good morning and welcome to Auto Intelligence. I'm Steve, and whether you're grabbing your morning coffee or catching up on the drive to work, we've got some heavy but crucial insights to share today.
I'm Claire, and we're both part of the Auto Agentic team. This is Thursday, which means it's time for another deep dive into the forces shaping mobility and transportation. New episodes drop every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday.
Auto Intelligence is produced by Auto Agentic AI. And today, we're tackling a topic that's, it's difficult. It's about war, innovation, and the double-edged sword of technological progress.
Before we dive in, I want to acknowledge something. We're about to discuss how conflict is driving mobility innovation in ways that are both fascinating and deeply troubling. Like all transformative technologies, there's always a darker side to consider.
Exactly. Today, we're exploring how the war in Ukraine has become what one expert calls a war lab for the future, fundamentally rewriting the rules of battlefield movement in ways that will inevitably impact civilian mobility, autonomous systems, and the entire transportation ecosystem.
The research we're diving into today comes from multiple defence analysts, including the Centre for Strategic and International Studies, the Royal United Services Institute, and direct accounts from the battlefield. What we're seeing is a complete transformation from traditional heavy armour to electric bikes, from human-operated vehicles to AI-guided swarms.
And here's what struck me most from this research. By early 2025, Ukraine was producing over 1.5 million drones annually, with plans to triple that number. But it's not just about drones. Ukrainian special forces are racing into battle on electric scooters. Soldiers are using dirt bikes and e-bikes for reconnaissance missions that would have required armored vehicles just a few years ago.
The scale is staggering. According to the Royal United Services Institute, by early 2025, drones were accounting for 60 to 70% of the damage and destruction caused to Russian equipment in the war. We're witnessing the end of traditional armored warfare as we know it.
So let's start with the most visible transformation, the drone revolution. Claire, what are we seeing in terms of air mobility being completely redefined?
It's a complete paradigm shift, Steve. We're not talking about the expensive, sophisticated military drones that cost millions. These are cheap, adaptable platforms, many costing less than $1,000, that have become the backbone of Ukraine's battlefield strategy.
And the human stories behind this they're intense. There's an account from Serhiy, a 27-year-old drone operator from Kharkiv, who describes how his unit went from having maybe 2 drones for the whole unit to every squad having several. He says, "We can see the Russians before they see us. We can strike their tanks, their trenches, their supply trucks. It's changed everything."
The psychological impact is profound. Russian soldiers report being unable to leave their trenches without facing immediate attack from swarms of first-person view drones. One Russian military blogger said, "Their reconnaissance drones are in the sky 24/7, and any movement on our part is immediately met with a massive wave of drones."
That's a level of psychological warfare we've never seen before. The constant presence of unseen eyes in the sky. Lieutenant Colonel Volodymyr Dudko of the Ukrainian army describes this new reality where soldiers are responsible for human life while trying to minimize casualties and execute missions under constant surveillance.
And here's where it gets really concerning for the future of mobility. Ukraine unveiled what they call the Mother Drone System in 2024. It's a large AI-powered drone that launches smaller, GPS-independent strike drones capable of seeking and destroying targets up to 300 kilometers behind enemy lines.
So we're talking about AI systems that can make targeting decisions autonomously. Oleksandr, an engineer at a Kyiv-based drone startup, explains it this way. "We are not just building drones. We are building an ecosystem where drones talk to each other, share data, and act as a team."
That ecosystem concept is crucial because it's not just about individual vehicles anymore. It's about networked intelligence, swarm behavior, and autonomous decision-making. These are the same technologies that will eventually power our civilian autonomous vehicle networks.
Right, and that brings us to what's happening on the ground. Traditional armored vehicles, tanks, APCs, have become incredibly vulnerable to these cheap drones. There's a quote from a 23-year-old Ukrainian tank operator, call sign Vendetta, who says, "In 2024, you can have a $500 FPV drone take out a tank worth millions.
Bohdan, that's his real name, recounts this harrowing experience where his tank was moving to a new position when drones were spotted overhead. Within minutes, 2 Russian FPV drones found them. One hit the rear of the tank, disabling the engine. They had to abandon it and run. He says that's the reality now.
So what's replacing these traditional vehicles? This is where it gets really interesting from a mobility perspective. Both Russian and Ukrainian forces have turned to motorcycles, dirt bikes, electric bikes, and even electric scooters.
The electric mobility aspect is fascinating. Ukrainian units are deploying locally designed e-bikes for stealthy insertions, sniper teams, and ammunition transport. These vehicles are nearly silent, emit no heat signature, and can traverse terrain inaccessible to heavier vehicles.
There's this incredible detail about the Ukrainian electric motorcycle called Atom Military that serves not only as silent transportation, but also as a mobile power source, capable of recharging other electrical devices from its battery. It's like a mobile energy hub.
And then there's the Latvian-made Mosfera e-scooter, originally designed for civilian use, that's become an unexpected military asset. Top speed of 100 kilometers per hour, range of 300 kilometers per charge. These scooters are equipped with special trailers for NATO standard ammunition boxes.
Mykola, a Ukrainian special forces operator, describes a night raid where they used e-scooters to get within a kilometer of Russian lines. No noise, no heat. We dropped our gear, crawled the last 200 meters, and hit their ammo dump. On the way back, we loaded wounded onto the scooters and were gone before the Russians even realized what happened.
But there's also this darker tactical development called the suicide biker doctrine. Russian stormtroopers are training on dirt bikes for frontline deployment, using speed and unpredictability to cross open terrain and evade drone strikes. The casualty rates are high, but it reflects this desperate shift toward mobility and improvisation.
Analyst Andrew Perpetua observed, "The more Russian soldiers ride into battle on dirt bikes, the more Russian soldiers die or get wounded while riding into battle on dirt bikes." It's a grim calculus of technological adaptation.
Now, underlying all of this physical transformation is something invisible but equally revolutionary: the electronic warfare environment. Both sides have such robust electronic warfare abilities that they've resorted to fiber optic cables for a significant portion of their drone operations.
This has led to one of the war's most striking visual phenomena. There's footage from Ukraine's 63rd Mechanized Brigade showing the Serebryansky forest draped with webs of reflective cables, each one connecting a drone operator to their aircraft via an unjammable hardwired connection.
Ole, a Ukrainian electronic warfare specialist, describes it as a constant cat and mouse game. The Russians jam our signals, we switch frequencies or go to fiber. They try to spoof our drones, we update the software. It's a constant race.
And this is where we start to see the implications for civilian mobility. Ukrainian companies like Himera have developed encrypted radios specifically designed to operate in heavy electronic warfare environments, while others like Bavovna.ai are creating drone navigation systems that function without GPS.
The speed of innovation is unprecedented. Ukrainian companies are moving from concept to battlefield deployment in months rather than years. As defense analyst Boyan Stoikovsky notes, Ukrainian startups aren't waiting years for military procurement contracts. They're delivering directly to the front, testing their solutions under combat conditions.
Captain Dmitro, a drone unit commander, describes this shift toward autonomy. "We used to fly every mission by hand. Now the drones can find targets, avoid jamming, and even return home if they lose contact. Our job is to set the mission and let the machines do the dangerous part."
Behind all these tactical innovations is a remarkable industrial transformation. Ukraine's defense production capacity increased sixfold in 2024, reaching $10 billion in total output compared to just $1 billion in 2022. More than 500 companies are now engaged in drone production alone.
Minister for Strategic Industries Herman Smetanin announced that if Ukraine's defense industry capacity tripled from 2022 to 2023, then in 2024 it grew from $3 billion to $20 billion. That's explosive growth driven by necessity.
In a converted warehouse in Lviv, there's a team of engineers working around the clock, assembling drones from imported parts and 3D printed components. Co-founder Irina describes it as like Silicon Valley, but with mortars landing outside.
What unites all these startups, according to analysis of Ukraine's defense ecosystem, is a mindset, agility over perfection, and direct feedback from the battlefield over top-down R&D. This is fundamentally different from traditional defense procurement.
And here's where it gets really significant for the future of warfare and mobility. Ukraine has developed what's called the Delta Situational Awareness System. It's evolved into what analysts describe as a functional combined joint all-domain command and control capability, something Western militaries have struggled to achieve for decades.
Andriy, a Delta system operator, explains, "I can see every friendly unit, every drone, every enemy position we know about. If a drone spots a tank, I can send the coordinates to artillery in seconds. It's like playing chess, but the pieces move in real time."
The Center for Strategic and International Studies research notes that Delta exemplifies software-defined warfare and provides a practical and agile approach to battlefield management. This system integrates data from multiple sources, drones, satellites, ground sensors, and human intelligence, into a comprehensive picture.
But we can't lose sight of the human element in all this technological transformation. As Colonel Scott Pence emphasizes, the war in Ukraine is being fought by men and women with lives, families, thoughts, and fears.
Carl Larson, a US veteran who fought with Ukraine's International Legion, describes the mental toll. You can't leave your bunker, at least not during the day. I lost good friends that died from having a grenade explode next to them out of nowhere under a blue sky. You couldn't even hear it. Bang, they're dead.
This psychological pressure has driven tactical adaptations in how forces move and operate. Larson explained that soldiers often can't go on operations and have limited ability to move during daylight hours. The constant threat from above has changed the fundamental nature of military movement.
Yet there's also this incredible grassroots innovation happening. Maxime, a volunteer engineer, says, "We built our first drone in a garage using parts from a toy store and a broken laptop. Now we supply 3 brigades. It's a culture of improvisation and resilience."
Now let's talk about the international implications, because this transformation isn't staying in Ukraine. Air Force Chief of Staff General David Alvin called the Ukrainian offensive a wake-up moment and suggested it would impact defense budget conversations in Washington.
Latvia and the UK now co-lead a drone coalition, committing over €1.8 billion to Ukrainian drone procurement and co-development. European defence firms are testing their platforms alongside Ukrainian troops, learning from this real-world laboratory of modern warfare.
For Western militaries used to decade-long procurement cycles, Ukraine's fast, modular, and feedback-driven approach is a revelation. Taiwan is investing in mass-produced drones in anticipation of a possible conflict with China. Israel has recalibrated the Iron Dome air defense system to account for maneuverable drones.
When Ukrainian forces launched Operation Spider's Web in June 2025, using 117 drones to target Russian strategic bombers, they inflicted an estimated $7 billion in damage to Russia's nuclear-capable fleet. The operation destroyed 34% of Russia's strategic cruise missile carriers using relatively inexpensive commercial technology.
Senator John Boozman observed, "The Ukrainians defeated the Russian Navy without owning any ships, and now they've decimated their air force with virtually no air force of their own. That's the power of asymmetric technological innovation."
But we need to address the challenges and limitations. The sustainability of rapid technological development under wartime conditions is questionable. Georgetown Security Studies review analysis warns that to maintain its competitiveness and shape the global drone market in the long term, Ukraine needs to enhance its contracting capabilities, ensure standardization of drones, and secure investments in research and development.
Defense Express notes that the establishment of clear rules and quality standards has long been a pressing matter in Ukrainian drone production. Standardization remains a particular challenge when you're innovating at this pace.
There are also profound questions about the long-term psychological and social impacts. Yulia, a nurse in Dnipro, describes treating more soldiers with psychological trauma. The constant threat from the sky, the speed of the fighting, the sense that nowhere is safe, it wears people down.
And then there are the ethical and legal considerations. The rapid development of autonomous weapon systems raises profound questions. While Ukraine maintains human oversight in most targeting decisions, the trajectory toward fully autonomous systems is clear.
According to CSIS research, although fully autonomous warfare remains an aspiration, Significant progress has already been made in partial autonomy, particularly for aerial systems, while human oversight remains critical in engagement decisions.
Dr. Katerina Holub, a legal scholar at Kyiv University, warns that the speed of technological change is outpacing our ability to regulate. We need new frameworks for accountability, especially as machines take on more decision-making roles.
The international community is grappling with how to regulate these developments. The speed of innovation is creating a regulatory gap that could have serious implications for both military and civilian applications of these technologies.
You're listening to Auto Intelligence, brought to you by Auto Agentic,
the platform transforming automotive retail with intelligent, human-centered AI. Just as Ukraine is revolutionizing battlefield mobility through rapid innovation and adaptive technology, Auto Agentic is bringing that same spirit of agile, responsive innovation to automotive retail, helping dealerships navigate technological transformation while keeping human expertise at the center.
Now back to today's topic.
What we're seeing in Ukraine represents more than tactical innovation. It's a preview of future warfare that challenges fundamental assumptions about military power, defense spending, and strategic planning. Dr. Robert Seeley observes, the next conflict isn't coming. It's already being fought in Ukraine, not by NATO generals in simulated exercises, but by small, underfunded teams of Ukrainian innovators building the future of warfare with laptops, soldering irons, and scraps of carbon fiber.
This shift from expensive, complex systems developed over decades to cheap, adaptable platforms developed in months represents a democratization of military technology that could reshape global power balances. As one Western defense official put it, we are seeing the end of the era where only the richest countries could field the most advanced weapons. Now, innovation and speed matter more than money.
The training and doctrine evolution is equally significant. Ukrainian forces have developed new training programs that integrate operation of multiple mobility platforms, from traditional vehicles to drones to electronic warfare systems, into coherent tactical packages.
At a training base near Dnipro, instructor Petro explains, every week there's something new. A new drone, a new tactic, a new threat. We have to learn fast or we don't survive. That's the reality of technological warfare.
Looking ahead, Ukraine plans to produce 2.5 million drones in 2025, up from 1 million in 2024. Deputy Defense Minister Oleksandr says Ukraine's defense industry has reached the capacity to produce up to 10 million UAVs annually.
But there's a sustainability question here. Defense analyst Robert Seeley argues that the Ukrainian defense model needs disruption and disruptors because it is becoming unaffordable. The pace of innovation and production may not be sustainable long term.
The environmental and tactical adaptations are fascinating from a mobility perspective. Ukraine's diverse terrain has provided testing grounds for different solutions. In forested areas, fiber optic drones work best. In open terrain, motorcycle units provide advantages. In urban environments, compact electric vehicles excel.
Sasha, a platoon leader in Bakhmut, describes urban adaptation. We use small e-bikes to move between buildings, carrying anti-tank rockets and medical kits. The Russians can't hear us coming, and we can escape before their drones find us.
Defense expert Robert Seeley explains that the battlefield saturation of infantry-level drones is the clearest indicator of the military tech transformation. This is part of the move to a human-free, automated, and robotic front line.
The implications for civilian mobility are profound. The technologies being developed and tested in Ukraine, autonomous navigation systems that work without GPS, electric vehicles optimized for stealth and efficiency, swarm intelligence for coordinated movement, these will inevitably find their way into civilian applications.
We're already seeing this crossover. The same companies developing military e-bikes are working on civilian models. The navigation systems designed to work in electronic warfare environments could make civilian autonomous vehicles more robust. The swarm coordination algorithms could optimize traffic flow in smart cities.
But there's a darker side to consider. The same technologies that enable silent, efficient military operations could be used for surveillance, control, or even oppression in civilian contexts. The line between military and civilian applications is becoming increasingly blurred.
The economic implications are staggering. Ukraine's defense sector should become, according to Dr. Robert Seeley, a critical part of the Western defense industry. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how military technology is developed, produced, and deployed.
And this brings us to the AI implications. The Ukrainian military's objective, according to the Center for Strategic and International Studies, is to remove warfighters from direct combat and replace them with autonomous, unmanned systems. This is the trajectory we're on.
The speed of this transformation is unprecedented. Forces News reports that Ukrainian defense tech is making huge leaps thanks to soldiers' combat experience. This creates a new model for military education, where theoretical doctrine is constantly updated based on real-world experience.
What's particularly striking is how this challenges traditional notions of military superiority. President Volodymyr Zelensky has declared that Ukraine is now the world leader in drone warfare, and the evidence supports this claim based on scale and sophistication.
The global implications extend far beyond military applications. Military commanders worldwide are studying Ukraine's innovations. The democratization of advanced military technology means that smaller nations, non-state actors, and even civilian organizations could potentially access capabilities that were once limited to major powers.
There's also the question of technological dependence. As warfare becomes increasingly dependent on electronic systems, the vulnerability to cyber attacks, jamming, and system failures increases. The fiber optic cables threading through Ukrainian forests are a physical manifestation of this vulnerability.
The human cost of this technological transformation cannot be ignored. While these innovations may reduce casualties in some ways, they also create new forms of psychological trauma and change the fundamental nature of human conflict.
Dr. Robert Seeley warns that Ukraine is rewriting the rules of modern ground conflict, and unless we understand and invest in that transformation, Ukraine won't get the defense funding it needs, whilst NATO nations will be left dangerously exposed.
The research shows that this transformation is accelerating. Each innovation, each adaptation, each breakthrough in mobility and technology adds another piece to the emerging picture of how conflicts will be fought in the decades to come.
From dirt bikes racing across open fields to swarms of AI-guided drones hunting their targets, from electric scooters carrying anti-tank missiles to fiber optic cables threading through forest canopies, Ukraine has demonstrated that the future lies not in bigger, more expensive systems, but in cheaper, smarter, and more adaptable ones. And here's what keeps me up at night thinking about this. In this new reality, victory may belong not to those with the most traditional firepower, but to those who can most rapidly innovate, adapt, and deploy the tools of 21st century warfare.
The transformation is far from complete. As Ukrainian President Zelensky noted, his country has become a war lab for the future, and the experiments continue daily. The only certainty is that the battlefield of tomorrow will look very different from the one of yesterday.
What strikes me most about this research is how it challenges our assumptions about technological progress. We often think of innovation as inherently positive, but here we see how the same technologies that could revolutionize civilian transportation are being forged in the crucible of conflict.
The electric mobility solutions, the autonomous navigation systems, the swarm intelligence, these could transform how we move goods and people in peacetime. But they're being developed and tested in the context of life and death decisions, which raises profound questions about the nature of technological development.
There's something deeply unsettling about the fact that some of our most advanced mobility technologies are emerging from a war zone. It forces us to confront the reality that innovation often comes from necessity, and sometimes that necessity is conflict.
The speed of adaptation is remarkable. Ukrainian forces are essentially beta testing the future of mobility in real time under the most extreme conditions imaginable. The feedback loop between battlefield experience and technological development is creating innovations at a pace we've never seen before.
As we wrap up today's conversation, I want to emphasize that this is a difficult topic, but one we need to explore because of its profound implications for the future of mobility and technology.
The innovations emerging from Ukraine's conflict represent both tremendous potential and significant risks. Like all transformative technologies, they can be used for both beneficial and harmful purposes.
What's clear is that the future of mobility, whether military or civilian, will be shaped by the technologies and approaches being developed and tested in Ukraine today. We ignore these developments at our own peril.
The challenge for all of us is to learn from these innovations while working to ensure they're used in ways that benefit humanity rather than harm it.
Thank you for joining us for this difficult but crucial exploration of how Ukraine's war is rewriting the rules of mobility forever. The implications extend far beyond the battlefield and will shape how we move, work, and live in the decades to come.
We want to thank our growing audience for their engagement and thoughtful feedback. Your questions and insights help us explore these complex topics more deeply.
This episode was produced by the team at Auto Agentic. Learn more at autoagentic.ai. We'd also like to thank our producer, Barry Hillier, co-founder and CEO of Auto Agentic AI, for his continued support and vision.
If you'd like to reach out to us with suggestions, thoughts on topics, or general feedback, email us at barry@autoagentic.ai. Barry is always looking for exciting new topics, companies, and people who are shaping mobility and the future of transportation.
Remember, new episodes of Auto Intelligence drop every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep thinking about how technology can serve humanity's best interests.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on Auto Intelligence.